Okay, this track is going to be in the key of E minor, and first off I just want to take you through some open string ideas which I think work really cool over a track like this. I mean, most of what I played was just outlining the different positions of the pentatonic scale, but all on one string. So I mean, if we start on the first position and then play open, fifth position, fourth, third, second, and then first position is sort of but you know, that's kind of more of a bluesy thing, which I'm not really entering into. Most of this stuff is just on the one string. So yeah, you can create some really good pedal toning kind of licks just using the open E string. Obviously, because it's in the key of E and the top E string is an E, you can play the notes in key on the fretboard and in conjunction with the open string, and it sounds pretty cool. You know, you can get some sort of fairly nice sort of keyboard sounding effects. Again, this is probably something that's influenced by, you know, like, you know, Joe Satriani, John Petrucci, all that kind of stuff. Satriani has a habit of doing, like, you know, fast hammer-ons and pull-offs, you know, when playing open string kind of stuff, so you might have this sort of thing. You know, that kind of thing, which is featured in a few songs that he's done. Again, that's, you know, really good use of open string, creating those sort of pedal tone style licks. I mean, I started off the solo just playing like octaves as well. I do that quite a lot, but sometimes it just kind of creates the landscape of what I'm going to be playing after that, and it seems to work quite well, you know, just playing something like you know, that kind of thing. You can add quite another sort of wide dimension to what you're playing over. I mean, the thing about that is you can sort of strum it, and you know, you're playing octaves. There's the D string in the middle, but your first finger should be conveniently blocking that, so you don't get any unwanted noise or anything like that. And then you just kind of target that 3-note string area between the A and the G string. You can probably get the low E in there as well, seeing as that's pretty much the tone behind what you're playing. Okay, from an improvisational standpoint over this track, I mean, because it's got quite a nice sort of swing to it, sometimes I feel that playing, like, you know, constant licks and movement can sometimes be quite nice. I did a song like ages ago that was like a buried secret track or whatever. I mean, the record label had this kind of crazy idea of having like the last track on In the Wake of Chaos, and then after about a minute after that last track finished, there'd be this other song. That other song being Flight of Icarus, which I don't know if it's actually available on the download version that you can get now, but on the CDs it was kind of buried in this about a minute into the last track. And you know, there's that song in particular has this sort of feel to it. Another song that I did more recently on 2011 self-titled album is a song called Gateways, and it kind of had this kind of feel, where I was just playing that sort of swing feel with just a continued lead line over the top of it, if you like. I don't really know how to describe it. It's quite a lot of you know, wide intervals and just kind of sliding and moving around, you know, different pentatonic shapes, adding in, you know, fifths, ninths, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I'm just going to sort of sit and jam around, not like a mega sort of fast pace or anything, but just sit and you know, play through some of this stuff so you can get an idea of how I like to kind of link notes and scales together. This is often something that I'll use as a practice as well. If I just sit down and play guitar, I will sometimes just see how long I can continuously string notes together before I mess up the whole thing and start again. it seems to get the creative flow from my brain to my hand to work, which is something I try and engage in when I'm like practicing, especially if I've got to play live or whatever, because I need that coordination. I need my brain and my hand to sort of like talk to each other, otherwise the gig can go horribly wrong. Anyway, I'm just going to sort of jam through a few ideas and then just explain a little bit about how I like to move around these different shapes. Here we go. Okay, so hopefully from that you can see how I like to try and integrate some of these shapes and scales together. I'm trying to use less obvious ways of playing between pentatonic shapes. I started on an arpeggio, which is just string skipping arpeggio that you've probably seen me do many times. But again, I like playing arpeggios like this because you can sequence them a lot easier than you can when you're, sweeping and stuff like that. So, that kind of basic idea of just moving things around. I quite like that sort of sound of having the intervals fairly, wide apart, and I think it flows quite nicely over this kind of backing track. I'm not going to break that down into too much detail. There'll be the tab for the solo anyway, so you can see, the kind of idea. But I was just improvising when I did the backing track, so there was no hard and fast way of, playing what I did. But essentially, my kind of view is that you can use octaves, playing like your pentatonic positions, and then integrate arpeggios in there as well. Okay, so again, you've got two ideas that you can put back to back, just using that pentatonic shape. So, even from that, you can start to build up your own like licks and stuff. And it sounds difficult, but it really isn't. The only thing you've got to do is allow yourself to flow with it instead of, worrying if you're going to, mess up, or, you're worried that it's not going to sound right. At the end of the day, the only way you're going to learn anything like this is to mess it up, is to make loads of mistakes. I've made tons of mistakes with like playing, and I've been playing stuff that I thought I'd learnt right for years, and probably learnt it wrong. But through learning stuff wrong, I've actually come up with like different ways of doing stuff. So, I really don't think that there's a problem with making mistakes. I think it's important for your learning to actually make mistakes. I don't mean like go out of your way to start playing live, making loads of mistakes and all that kind of stuff. I don't mean that. I just mean, when you're learning, mistakes, flag up things you need to work on as a player, but mistakes can also lead you in a different path that you didn't realise existed. And sometimes sometimes they're paths that are not necessarily something that you'll find if you just rely totally on theory. Theory for me, like I've said this before, is almost like, it's like the English language. Like if I've heard a word that I don't know what it means or whatever, I'll go and look it up in a dictionary. Same with guitar. If I come across like a scale or something, I'll think, well, I'm just intrigued to know why that works or whatever. I'll go and look it up. But I'm not altogether that bothered, because if I know the key and I know the sort of like area I'm working in, and I just come across a new pattern or a new way of rearranging the same notes, because I don't know, you just figure it out. You just stumble across it. You might be watching Garfield, or I don't know why that even came into my head. I don't know, a film, Iron Man or something, I don't know, whatever you're watching on TV. And you'll just be kind of noodling around, which I do quite a lot on an acoustic as well, because I like to practice acoustic a lot because it's good for alternate picking, but it also stops you relying totally on, gain and effects and all that sort of stuff. So you really have to play everything that like with the right hand that you would do on an acoustic. But but I'll just sit noodling, and then I'll come across something. I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll work on that, or do it, or integrate it into a song. I don't know. I mean, I do end up banging on about the same thing all the time, but I feel like I keep having to repeat myself because it's one of those lessons that you just want to beat into somebody. Like, take this lick, literally milk it for all it's worth, and then move on, do something else. That's pretty much been my approach to playing guitar. Is I've not just stuck with learning, I don't know, some Paul Gilbert lick or some John Petrucci lick and gone, right, I'm going to play it just like them. Because at the end of the day, all you're going to do is end up sounding exactly like them. Whereas what you should really do is just take any inspiration from all your favourite guitar players and go, right, I really like the idea of that. Try and get into their mind of why they might have come up with it, and then find a vehicle to be able to sort of regurgitate it in your own way over something that maybe you've written or whatever. And that's pretty much what I've done, really. Just trial and error process with different things, finding out what works with my fingers, what doesn't work, what I like the sound of, what I don't like the sound of. All these things impact onto how you end up as a guitar player. I mean, it's kind of going slightly off topic. I mean, there's certain things in there which are, like reminiscent of something Petrucci would do, but they're not direct rip-off licks of something that I've learnt out of a Dream Theater song. There's just the concept and the sound that I like, so that's more what I've worked on, more than any specific licks. I mean, I've learnt the specific licks initially just to get my head around how to create that sound, but then you start to use that concept and explore other ideas on your own. Because I think you're going to remember stuff more that way anyway. If you remember more of your own stuff, it's easier than trying to remember more of someone else's stuff. At least it is for me anyway. So yeah, I mean, this song is basically centered around being able to move around the guitar like that. Even when it gets to the sort of melodic element of the song, it's still the same essence of what I was doing before, but just trying to land on better target notes to sort of fit in with the backing track. Again, the solo is going to be transcribed. It's all going to be written down, so you can follow where all these different changes happen. If there's anything within this solo that appeals to you and you want to isolate that bit and figure it out, then it's all going to be on there anyway. Like I say, most of this was just kind of improvised, so I'm sharing with you the concept of, how my brain is working more than just going, right, here's this lick, here's that lick, here's another lick, to try and get you to come up with your own version of that style of playing if that's what you're into. I mean, there's some alternate picking in this track, and a lot of it centres on like one string, so you might have stuff like this. That kind of thing, just picking quite fast on the top string, but it might only just be a pattern that'll be like. But you're playing it in such a way that that has got a certain type of rhythm to it, where you're just literally accenting the first note. You might move it down like a scale, but that's quite a good exercise just to practice on really coordinating your left and right hand. It's a lot. It's harder than it kind of may seem, especially when you speed it up. But you really do want to concentrate on not individually picking single notes, but just the phrase as a whole, if that makes sense, and then try and accent the beginning of it, so you really do sync up the picking hand to the left hand. mistakes in there, but I'm gonna leave them in because, you know, everyone makes mistakes, and, you know, if you're practicing, that's going to happen. So I don't want to kind of sit here and go that, you know, everything I do is like, you know, really perfect and really clean all of the time, although I would like it to be. But, you know, sometimes shit happens and you've just got to leave it in there. But that's really good. That's a good way of, you know, practicing your picking, just keeping it, you know, in time. Maybe play to a metronome, because that is slow tempo might seem like on the beat. You know, and then you gradually kind of get it faster and faster. But yeah, that's, you know, something else that features in this song. One other cool lick that I do want to share with you quickly is a kind of wide intervallic tapping lick, which looks like this. Okay, and just I'll try and make that as simple as possible. We're just tapping the 24th fret on the high E string, playing 17 and 12 on the high E and the B, and then just playing the normal pentatonic shape on the way down in the key of E minor.